travel. And do you know what? Maybe we'll kick things off now. Alrighty, so good evening everyone and welcome to the State of Travel with Gadventures. Here, we aim to cut through the noise and confusion surrounding the Australian and New Zealand travel industry to deliver you the most up-to-date, useful and relevant information. Because let's face it, after the year that was 2020, we could all use a holiday. My name is Bella and I'll be acting as moderator this evening. Joining me are two of Gadventures' leading travel industry experts, our National Sales Manager, Dan, and our Global Purpose Specialist, Jake. Tonight, we'll be discussing the destinations that you currently can travel to, as well as some more exotic destinations that are likely to open up through travel bubbles in the hopefully not too distant future. We'll also be discussing how to book with peace of mind, despite the uncertainty, and how you can travel safely during COVID-19. Throughout, we will be monitoring comments in the chat function. So if you have a question you would like answered, please post it there. All right, so firstly, Jake, let's talk about Australia. In the wake of the Australian bushfires this year, Tourism Australia had diverted a lot of attention and funds to their Holiday Here This Year campaign, which encouraged Australians to discover their own backyard and assist in rebuilding the local communities impacted by bushfires. Like everything though, COVID-19 threw a spanner in the works there when most Australian states implemented a hard border closure. However, my understanding is that things are starting to open it back up. Is that correct, Jake? And can we start to explore that gorgeous country of ours?
Oh, you know what? Well, both of us have been locked in Melbourne for quite some time, so I think we're very, very ready to get out and amongst it all. And who wouldn't want to go experience our own backyard of good old Australia? So, touching on those good old wildfires and also our wildlife. So, we want to go see the kangaroos, the dingoes, the emus, those wombats and echidnas, and of course, the koalas. So our East Coast tours actually do get to spend some time at the Koala Hospital in Port Macquarie to learn all about how we're managing bushfire season here in Australia and also their rehabilitation back into the wild. Then somewhere that I'm absolutely dying to go to next, the Great Ocean Road. Cannot wait to get in the car and go for a surf, where we get to go to places like the 12 Apostles. And we also stop off in Port Campbell and get on the beers, thank you Dan Andrew, at Sow & Piglet's Brewery, which is a great way to support that local business as well. I know we're supposed to be taking an empty esky to fill up, but for me, I'm taking an empty car to get on those beers. Uluru for sure. Somewhere where everyone really needs to get to and go experience. For me, I'd love to see the sunset with a nice glass of champagne and just watch and take in all of that scenery. And then, of course, we have the oldest Indigenous culture on the planet here in Australia, and we can get amongst and learn all about our Aboriginal culture as well. I think is really important. So as to if we can actually travel there and the things that we can see, as a Kiwi for our New Zealanders, you can travel into Australia quarantine free. So come on over, please. So that means that once you hit the ground in Australia, you won't need to isolate in a hotel at your own expense. However, since Australian border restrictions are in place between states, you can't, for example, fly into Sydney and then fly to Brisbane. Currently, only New South Wales, the ACT and the Northern Territory have quarantine-free travel in place, but this will likely be expanded in the coming weeks. In addition, as it currently stands, anyone returning from Australia to New Zealand would need to quarantine for 14 days upon their return. So my best advice is to give it a few more weeks until the requirement for quarantine upon your return is hopefully removed. And then for us Aussies, basically, as long as you're not in Victoria, you can pretty much get amongst anywhere you really want to go these days, with some exceptions for WA and then also Queensland too.
Oh, fair enough. And what are the flights looking like right now around Australia, Jake? Is it easy enough to get interstate?
Oh, well, as someone that takes my velocity status very seriously, I'm so excited to now be able to see that internal Australian flights to all destinations are currently selling from December. More or less, the airlines are basically anticipating borders will be open by then. For Kiwis, there's currently only a Monday and Friday flight with Qantas running from Auckland to Sydney. Virgin Australia is selling flights on that route from December 18th at this stage. And Air New Zealand is running 8 weekly services from Auckland to Sydney, 4 weekly services from Auckland to Brisbane, and 7 weekly services from Auckland to Melbourne. Further announcements are likely to come once the Aussie borders, the state borders reopen, but New Zealand tourism is likely to follow if case numbers aren't that high.
And is there a particular trip that we should look forward to being able to do in Australia?
Oh, well, we run a total of 18 different trips in Australia on a variety of different dates. Some run up the East Coast, while others will explore the Red Centre. However, my pick would be the Brisbane to Cairns experience. It's a 10-day that goes up the coast from Brisbane through to Cairns. You get to do Fraser Island, as well as a few nights sailing through the Whitsundays, ending in Cairns, where you can do my favourite activity, which is bungee jumping. I just want to book it. Come on.
Oh, don't we all? Pretty keen for when Melbourne can start to lead our state again, as much as we love it. Now, you mentioned New Zealand there, so maybe let's cross the ditch and talk about our Cuzzy Bros and whether or not we can visit them. What's the situation? Well, let's first of all talk about why we would want to go to New Zealand. What's happening over there for us, Jake?
Well, our lucky Kiwis currently aren't beached as bros, so they can get over. I mean, why would you not want to go to New Zealand, to be honest with you? It's the adventure capital of the world. Bungee jumping, skydiving, zorbing, you can do pretty much anything and everything over there. You've also got this beautiful scenery over where you can get your full, I suppose, Lord of the Rings experience, if you're into that type of thing as well. I actually went to Hobbiton at the end of last year, and a friend of mine had never seen the movie, but he's done a good time. Doubtful Sounds, you can do an overnight cruise throughout here. And just take in these beautiful scenery and just live your best life. And then also go climb some glaciers if you're more actively inclined when you do travel, which is something that looks pretty cool to me.
Oh, it looks super cool. So what is the status like for us, well, for Australians traveling to New Zealand, Jake? Is it possible yet? Is it on the horizon? What are we looking like?
Currently, for us Australians, we can't currently get into New Zealand without an exemption from the Department of Home Affairs. However, that will likely change in the next few months to allow travel to and from New Zealand, assuming both countries remain in control of COVID. As a Kiwi, go for gold. Go travel around your own country. I'd be in Queenstown right now if I was over there, that's for sure.
Yeah, and what are the flights like?
For Aussies, while you can buy flights to New Zealand around Christmas time, there is no guarantee you will be able to travel. It's hard to see this being lifted before the new year, but with the recent positive developments in Melbourne, we've never been closer. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll be there shortly.
Bloody hope so. And is there any particular trip is there any particular trip that you think we can recommend our viewers when they can finally get to New Zealand?
We run a total of 12 trips in New Zealand all throughout the year. The trips that do South Island, North Island, and both. For me, I'm all about doing both islands. So I would just do classic New Zealand, where you can do the best in Auckland, head up to Raglan and go for a surf, and then go down to Queenstown and go jump off a bunch of fun things. Really, it's my pick.
Fantastic. All right, so maybe let's move beyond the Trans-Tasman now. Obviously, the Australian government has implemented an international travel ban. However, there is talk of opening up travel corridors with other countries. Dan, before we move on to speaking about specific countries, can we talk a little about the relative value of the Australian and New Zealand passports and whether they're ranked?
Right, so maybe let's move beyond the Trans-Tasman now. Obviously, the Australian government has implemented an international.
Bella, are you getting double sound as I am? The reverb there?
Corridors with other countries. Dan, before we move on to speaking about specific countries, can we talk a little about the relative value of the Australian and New Zealand passports?
All right. Well, look, let's just jump in there and see what happens. Hopefully our tech person from behind the scenes can work that out. You were asking about Australian and New Zealand passports, Bella. And yeah, look, I recently found out about a very cool thing called the Global Power Index, which ranks passports. And how we rank them is we're essentially looking at the most travel-friendly passports on the planet. And that's those that offer the most visa-free or visa-on-arrival access options. So just like the Bledisloe, we've got it over, well, Kiwis have got it over the Aussies. Again, we're 1 point in rankings higher. So you'll find that New Zealand is fifth equal on the ranking sheet, behind countries like Germany, France, South Korea, and the UK. And Australia is just one behind, 6 equal with Estonia, Slovakia, and Liechtenstein. There is talk about easing quarantine restrictions. You can see on the screen here, there's the discussion of possibly doing a traffic light system, green for countries like New Zealand, no quarantine, red for places like the UK, where there is still currently a mandatory quarantine. But the good thing is, during this time, as we've been standing down, both passports, New Zealand and Australia, have been moving up the rankings, which is great. It means we can go to more places once we're jumping on planes again.
Sorry, I'll unmute myself. So let's start talking about some of those places, Dan. Where's sort of looking the most promising for Australian and New Zealanders being able to travel to overseas?
Right, so outside of in our own backyard, like Jake just touched on with Australia and New Zealand, we are going to Japan. So look, it's an absolutely stunning place. Japan continues to lead our search for people joining our, coming to our website. It is a truly fascinating destination, and some of the things that we love about it, and I'll start with Tokyo. Nearly 500,000 people departed from Australia and New Zealand to visit Japan last year, and a lot of us would have traveled via Tokyo. The suburbs or neighborhoods of Tokyo are amazing. They've all got unique character and flavor. You can see Shibuya, it's pictured here. And I think it's what you find, when you think of Tokyo, it's what you might expect. It's buzzing, neon billboards, tons of activities around restaurants, bars, nightclubs. It comes alive at night. For anyone looking to get wild, Shibuya and Shinjuku are definitely your places. Another really interesting neighborhood, Akihabara, which is known as Electric Town. This is nerd central in the best way. Fans of video games, manga, anime, any other type of enthusiast pursuit like this, they'll feel right at home. There's a couple of other suburbs. We'll move through though outside of Tokyo, and let's head to a really important part of Japanese culture, and this is a Shinto shrine. So this is Miyajima. You'll find it near Hiroshima. It's a ferry ride out, and we do visit this on some of our trips. It's in the southern part of Japan, and the star attraction of this island here is the floating Torii gate. So it's built over the water to look like it's floating. If you do visit, you want to make sure you get the tide right, because this looks fantastic. But when it's low tide, the photos don't look as good because it's completely out of the water. What it does mean though is you can walk right up to it and see it. It's huge. If you do stay, which you can do, you'll be able to walk around this at night. It's illuminated every evening, which is fantastic. I think high on a lot of people's list would be, this next image here, and this is cherry blossoms. I love this photo. The cherry blossom is Japan's unofficial national flower, and it's very widely celebrated by their culture. I think what everyone wants to know is, when do they bloom? So the determining factor for this is where in Japan you're going and at what time of year. So it's all geographical location. It starts sort of in January towards the subtropical islands of Okinawa. And then as you head further north on the northern island of Hokkaido, you're looking at late May. But it's that first half of the year where you'll find cherry blossoms, and they're all over Japan. So you don't have to travel too far out of main centers to see beautiful views like this. Another thing that Aussies and Kiwis love about traveling, we love food, we love meeting people. Japanese cuisine, there's so many regional delights really. And one of the ways to experience this would be to do one of our trips called the Back Road of Japan, where we're traveling into a remote rural Hagi, which is southern Japan. And we're staying with a community and we have dinner with a family. So, along with the morning bicycle rides, we'll take part in the afternoon in any of the seasonal activities that are occurring in the community. And then in the late afternoon, you can see dinner here. And I love this image. What a great sort of way to celebrate your visit to Japan, but spending time with a Japanese family. And that kid is very cute. And then the last one, which I've got here, I only got 5 images. It's hard to narrow it down. If you can't guess where this is, it's probably because you haven't seen it from this angle before. This is Mount Fuji. So, this is the nation's tallest peak. It's a sacred mountain for Japanese. On our 14-day Tokyo to Tokyo trip, which is called Discover Japan, Hike Mount Fuji, we culminate in a 2-day ascent and a sunrise visit, summiting the mountain with sunrise. So you get a view like this because it casts that massive shadow there. You can do it if you don't want to hike, that's fine. You can visit Mount Fuji via a train. There's plenty of spas in the area. You can see it from a hot tub if you really want to. I mean, what do you think of that, Bella? How does that
I am
sound?
never opposed to a spa, so sounds very good.
Right. So those are some of the highlights, I think, of Japan and why people would want to travel there. In regards to, can we travel there? Look, Japanese borders are still partially closed to visitors from New Zealand and Australia, but there are various categories which you can get in on. If you're a tourist, no right now. But what just happened recently, and it's good news for all of us, is that Japan hosted a conference. It was a trial conference with 350 international attendees. And they've also recently opened up travel corridors with 10 countries in Asia. So while that may not affect us here in Australia and New Zealand, what it means is that things are starting to be a bit more flexible and they're moving in the direction that we want. In regards to flights, Qantas will be starting up again back in February out of major Australian hubs into Tokyo and Osaka. ANA, you'll be running out of Australian hubs as well. And Air New Zealand is running into Narita currently and starts Osaka in February.
And do you have a trip that you would recommend people to keep their eye on, Dan, for when things do open up?
Oh, so many good ones. It's one of the places I think you've got to go maybe twice, 3 times. Look, I'm a big fan of the active trips, and I would love to finish a 14-day itinerary at the top of this beautiful mountain, Mount Fuji. So I'd say the Discover Japan hike Mount Fuji, that would be the one I'd be looking out for. But there's 11 trips across 6 different travel styles, and they range from 6 days to 16 days. Most of them are around 2 weeks. Again, if you're looking at traveling, it is a year-round destination, but do remember that it does face extremes in weather. So it does get very cold, does get very hot. So maybe speak to your travel agent or speak to us at Gadventures and discuss when you want to go, what you want to see, and we can help you find the best time of year for that.
Oh, fantastic. So I think we'll all be booking our tickets to Japan as soon as we can. But in the meantime, do we have another destination that we can recommend people to start keeping their eyes on?
Yeah, we can. So not too far, just neighbors across the water, we have South Korea. So look, I've been to South Korea a number of times and it's fascinating. I don't think it's on the mainstream tourist trail yet, which that's something that personally I love, but it's got a really rich culture and heritage and stunning natural attractions. Last year, nearly 200,000 Australians and New Zealanders visited South Korea, and that shows that it's growing in interest. Like every year it's increasing. So, there's something about it that we love. What you will find, some of the best preserved sacred attractions in East Asia. This is Gyeongbokgung Palace. It's in Seoul. What you're seeing there is the changing of the guard. It happens twice a day. Very colorful. And yeah, you can get in there. If you want to get in there for free, save a couple of dollars, you wear a traditional Korean hanbok. You can rent them for free when you get there. You can rent them if you'd like. Otherwise, if you're wearing one when you arrive, it's free entry for you. We'll head out of Seoul now. And this next photo, this is a small image of Jeju Island, but I like it because of that volcano at the back there. But when people think of South Korea, I don't consider that they think of emerald water and white sandy beaches or scuba diving, surfing, deep sea fishing. But Jeju Island is a fantastic spot for that. It's right off the south coast of the peninsula. It's actually between Jeju and Seoul. It's the busiest air route in the world. But there's stunning attractions and the best seafood you'll find in that part of the world, the freshest. This next image that we've got here, Bella, this is Busan. This is the second largest city after Seoul. And that image there reminds me of places in Colombia, places in Argentina, some of the colorful neighborhoods. Busan's fascinating. It's got mountains. There's beautiful water activities to be done. Really cool bridge. If you want to know more about Busan, you'll definitely see photos of the bridge, but lots of hiking, trekking, active options. And what's great about Busan is it's also the center of the spa culture, Jiminbang, which in Korean it's like public bathhouses. But in Busan, there's 450 different spas. And there's a place called Spa Land, which I love. It's got 20 different spas there, and each one will treat a particular different ailment that you might have. So for me, after a day of hiking, it might be that my body's tired, so they'll have the pool for you. This one here, this next photo, it's a little bit off the tourist trail. Well, considering that South Korea already is. And this is for any matcha lovers. So the green tea fields we've got here, it's in the southern part of the peninsula, and it's a green tea paradise. So obviously stunning for views, but if matcha or green tea is your thing, once you summit this little hill here, there's a restaurant and they're serving green tea, soft serve, matcha lattes, there's green tea bibimbap. It's a celebration of all things green tea, which leads me to the next slide, and that is a Korean barbecue. Korean barbecue is a very popular social dining experience in South Korea, combines a lot of traditions and etiquette around food. There is definitely a process and a protocol to doing it. And if you join us on a Gadventures trip here, you'll have your local guide or your built-in best friend to show you how it's done. But it's a ton of fun. Order a few beers, you order your meat, you tell them what veggies you want, and then you cook it yourself at the table. It is a lot of fun.
Oh, fantastic. I can just tell I'm salivating just by looking at that photo. We shouldn't have had it over dinner.
Yeah, food at dinner time. I shouldn't be doing that, Bella.
What's going to happen? So what is the situation like currently in South Korea? Is it likely that we're going to be able to get over there anytime soon?
It's definitely been discussed, and I've been looking at the tourism authorities' websites over the last couple of days and speaking to people from there. And there is discussions around possible travel corridors between Australia and New Zealand for South Korea. They've had a fantastic response to COVID internally. So I guess it's just when they're ready to start receiving us. But in regards to flights, you've got Asiana, Korean, Air New Zealand and Jetstar. They operate out of Australia and New Zealand hubs with direct flights. Plus, again, if you're happy to do a layover or a stopover, there's dozens of different hubs in Asia, or even in Australia if you're coming from New Zealand that you could use to do that. But we do have, looking at that, there is one trip which we offer in South Korea, which I think is fantastic, 8 days Seoul to Seoul. We get to spend some time in Busan, we do some hiking, and then we're also traveling up to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. So you're getting all sorts of coverage there. What I would definitely do if you're doing our trip is spend a couple of days pre and post yourself to maybe get yourself down to Jeju Island, or go and pick some matcha and get into that way.
Oh, fantastic. Now, we've spoken a lot about, we've spoken in depth about these two countries that have handled COVID-19 really, really well. But as we can assume, people would have some hesitance around traveling throughout the pandemic. So what advice can we give travelers who are looking to travel during this time, just to give them peace of mind as to how they can stay safe? Jake, are you able to give us a little bit of insight there?
I can confidently give you some insight on our travel with confidence policies at Gadventures here, Bella. So our travel confidence policy features new health and safety procedures from the moment that you arrive to the moment you leave. Of course, the policy will evolve over time as we continue to monitor local public health recommendations. So it includes things like new social distancing and hygiene measures, things as transportation, so daily assigned seating and daily deep cleaning, as well as wearing a mask within enclosed spaces. Where we go for our included meals, so more outdoor dining options and table service over a la carte, which is my favorite way to eat. Just bring me my food and my beer rather than have to wait in line at the bar. We have things such as in our accommodation, more detailed cleaning and less people in and out of your room. And our optional activities, we're doing these outside of those peak tourist times in places of interest, which really speaks to our CEO's local knowledge too. So it also will highlight the importance of our small group travel style that really helps to facilitate many of these new safety measures. So as well as the key role played by those dedicated chief experience officers, or our tour leaders that we have on the ground, who have that local knowledge, that local support, and also they can speak the local language to really help us out while we are on the ground in destination.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's get into some more destinations that are hopefully going to open up for us soon. Where are we off to next, Jake?
I'm so excited to talk about Sri Lanka because I'm desperate to get here. Dan has been too many times, so it's my turn to go. So Sri Lanka is super popular in search. It is going off on our website. Everyone keeps clicking on it. So let's just dive right in to the waterfall. So with a tropical climate year round, you can always go for a swim in places like Ravana Falls. It's also got some great landscapes and hiking trails throughout the tea plantations and misty mountains and things like that you can go experience. Now for me, I'm desperate to go for a surf when we're allowed to get a bit further away from good old Melbourne. So if you go over to Sri Lanka, they've got some fantastic surf opportunities on those white sandy beaches. And you can go rent a board from one of the local vendors there, help out that local economy, spend some local dollars in there. And then once you've surfed all day, you're probably going to work up a meal and you're going to want to go eat. So the food in Sri Lanka is full of exotic spices. They're very famous for their curries, especially fish curry, which are generally caught by these lads that sit on these poles all day and wait for the fish to bite. And then for the wildlife lovers, Sri Lanka is home to 26 different national parks filled with elephants and leopards and crocodiles. There's even turtles and whales and dolphins for you to go hang out with. So that's why Sri Lanka is pretty high on my list and why I'm pretty excited to get over there when we can.
Well, it's been pretty high on my list as well. In fact, I was supposed to go to Sri Lanka before everything happened this year. So pretty keen to know, Jake, how is everything tracking over there? Is it likely that we're going to be able to get there anytime soon?
Look, at the moment, Sri Lanka's got its borders closed to international travellers and currently does not have a reopening date. They've got some pretty strict COVID safety measures in place, so things are looking up. So mandatory face masks in public, social distancing measures and things like that. However, currently there's no commercial flights. They're all suspended at the time being.
That's a pity. But when we can get there, do you have any particular trip that you recommend people keep their eye on?
Look, it was tough to pick between the 11 that we've got at the moment, but my go-to that I am going to be booking is Sri Lanka Land and Sea. So it's 7 days on the land exploring Sri Lanka. You get to do things like the Temple of the Tooth and spotting elephants. And then you get to relax for 7 days on board our 16-meter catamaran, just sailing through Sri Lanka's south coast, going for a surf, drinking beers and snorkeling with dolphins and all the fish. That's the trip to keep your eye on.
I mean, what's not to love there? I can already taste the cocktails. I'm very excited. All right. So where should we check out next?
We're going to head to Taiwan, which is a pretty cool destination. So off the coast of China, it's pretty sweet. So it's really famous for its temples, so Buddhist towers and Confucian. They're still actively used and pretty incredible to go visit. Of course, the night markets, so the food. If you love seafood, you'll love the food in Taiwan, with Chinese influences combined with the local Taiwanese traditions. And the street food at those night markets is what makes Taiwan a destination to get over to. On top of that, you've got the scenery. So you've got these incredible cityscapes, like here in the capital of Taipei, as well as the fact Taiwan has got a central mountain range featuring Jade Mountain that just runs through the middle of the country, which is perfect for those who can get above the clouds to take all those photos as well. And then there's also the hot springs of Taiwan. So it's located on the Ring of Fire, which is a big bonus because it means that you've got 100 natural hot springs to soak in as well.
I'm so grateful that all of these trips we've picked have all had spa elements. Thank you so much, lads. I appreciate it. So, Jake, how realistic? Yeah, well, it's all for me. Jake, how realistic is it that we could be getting to Taiwan anytime soon? How have our friends over there handled the COVID crisis?
Look, currently Taiwan's got its borders closed to international travellers, and they currently don't have a reopening date. However, they have opened up to business travellers from Australia and New Zealand. They do have to self-quarantine for 14 days upon arrival, however, and these restrictions are reviewed every 30 days at present. Commercial flights, they're currently suspended. However, Singapore Airlines and China Airlines have scheduled flights from January 1st from Australia. However, there is no guarantee you'll be able to travel with them on those ones just yet.
Still looking promising. And when we can finally travel to Taiwan, is there a particular trip we should look out for?
Oh, yeah. So we've got one trip called Taiwan Discovery, where you get to spend 10 days exploring the vibrant culture through its bustling cities, the landscapes, and of course, the night markets. For me, I'm pretty keen as are you to go chill in those hot springs, I reckon. So it's definitely one to keep your eye on.
Me too. Maybe I'll do a hot springs tour of all of these COVID-friendly destinations when it pops up. I honestly think it just sounds like a dream after the year we've had. Okay, Dan, so I'm going to throw it to you now. What's our final destination that we should be keeping our eyes open for?
All right. Yeah. Look, I don't know how many hot springs we'll find there, Bella, but it is, it always has been our most popular travel destination out of Australia and New Zealand, Vietnam. So yeah, stunning country. And I'm just going to, look at some of the highlights from it. So this first image here, rice paddies, mountains. You can only be one place. It's Sapa, which is a mountain town or region in northwest Vietnam. It's near the China border. You've got towering peaks, as I said, and beautiful villages. Just to note, it does get really cold here. It is at altitude. So again, as I was talking about, maybe with Japan, you want to think about when you're going, what you want to do. It has even snowed in some of these mountains. When I first heard that, I thought of Vietnam. I didn't really picture snow falling in Vietnam, but it happens. Next one. If you don't like Vietnamese food or Vietnamese street food, I think there's something wrong with you. No, look, if you're listening to a Gadventures State of Travel YouTube travel talk, you definitely love travel, you definitely love food. So again, being on tour with Gadventures, you've got your local guides and CEOs. They'll help translate, they'll help push you towards things that maybe you'd be a bit nervous to try if you're on your own. And once you're in the group environment, everybody will egg you on and you'll be trying things that you never pictured you would. But there's so many amazing cuisines in Vietnam, and yeah, why not go directly to taste those? Sticking with the food element, this next image, this is Oodles of Noodles. So this is one of our Planetera projects. And what Planetera does here is it's working with at-risk youth, and it's putting them into vocational training for the hospitality industry. And at the same time, providing a fantastic meal and a cooking demonstration for our travelers. So most of our trips that travel through Vietnam will visit here for lunch. And you can see the kids here, they love doing what they're doing, and it's helping to support them, empowering them to find a job and a bright future. And it's also providing a fantastic meal for our people, and also a chance to meet some local kids, which is fantastic. Obviously, there's beautiful scenery throughout Vietnam. So the Mekong Delta in the south is ever popular. And back up to the north, again, we've got Haalong Bay. So Haalong Bay is these limestone, these karst cliffs, and you can see the image there. This is a sunrise photo. And what we'll do is we'll stay overnight on a junk boat out there. So you could wake up and this photo could be yours as well. What do you reckon of that, Bella? Waking up early for a sunrise photo?
If it was in Vietnam, I think I'd definitely do it. How likely is it that we're going to be able to get there though, Dan? What's the situation looking like over there for Australian and New Zealand?
Yeah, so look, it's been the same for the last couple of destinations that we've talked about. No, not yet, but there are talks of travel corridors and regional travel bubbles, especially through Southeast Asia. And again, that doesn't quite help us here with our passports and where we're based, but it's a sign that things are moving in the right direction. When you are able to get there, there's Jetstar flights are starting again in January, going into Saigon from all major Australian hubs, Vietnam Airlines into Saigon and Hanoi. Sadly, there's no direct flights from New Zealand, but look, come and visit us here in Australia or any other beautiful place in Asia on your way there, and it's just a single stop off.
Oh, fantastic. And when we can finally get there, Dan, do you have a trip that you recommend?
I've got 43 trips I can recommend, Bella. Look, as I said, it's the most popular destination for us, and it has been for a long time. But yeah, there's 43 trips that you'll find in Vietnam, and they range from single day, sort of day excursions, right up to 41-day adventures, taking in other countries around Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand. Most of them, though, are around 2 weeks in duration. And we do have the full range of travel styles here as well. So, if you're looking for the bare bones trip and maybe late nights and rough mornings, we've got that for you. If you want to step it up and maybe private transport and a bit more time, learning about destination, we've got that on offer for you as well. So yeah, it's always going to be a popular destination for Aussie and Kiwi travelers. And again, like I said with previous places, come and do a trip with us, but make sure you include some time at the end for yourself to go exploring.
Fantastic. I guess the thing we need to chat about now is obviously with the Australian and New Zealand government and the imposing travel ban, at least in Australia, the situation is really unpredictable as to, well, it's a little bit uncertain, I guess, more than unpredictable as to when we might be able to travel again. And obviously, whilst we're all hungry and rearing to go, people can feel a little bit I guess, questioning their safety and security of their booking during this time. So what advice, if anything, can we give people to just kind of reassure them around the safety of their booking when they're making travel arrangements during COVID-19?
Yeah, look, you touched on a lot of good points there, Bella. There are things sort of outside of everyone's control, and we're trying to, work with the things that we can control. So what we've done, and to offer that, confidence to our travellers to make a booking, to get excited about travel plans, is our Book with Confidence policy. So essentially what we've done is we've relaxed all the terms around cancelling and rebooking. You can see the terms there. Essentially, if you're travelling next year and you need to cancel or change your dates up to 30 days prior, there's no charge. You can move that to any other date in the future. There are some rules around it, as you can see, but what we're trying to do is just make it easier for people who, they're keen to get overseas, they're keen to travel, but there's still some uncertainty. We're going to work with you to make sure that you're, confident enough to join us and, make that booking, and then hopefully get you overseas very, very soon.
Oh, fantastic. Now, we have had a couple of questions come in, guys, from our viewers and from people who were intending to view the session beforehand. The first is, given we're looking at best case scenario for late travel in 2021, is Gadventures taking bookings now for 2022?
Jake, do you want to take this one?
Don't
fight about it, boys. Just whoever wants to.
Good old delay. So the answer is yes. Yes, we are taking bookings for 2021, as well as bookings for 2022. I don't really want to jump the gun too early, but I would strongly suggest having a look at our website or giving your travel agent a ring on Monday morning, as there might be a bit of a pretty decent discount hitting people's computer screens.
You could say it's going to be one of our best sales of the year. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Definitely keep an eye out. Something big is coming. Alrighty. So the second question we have is, how likely is it that we're going to be able to travel to North America and Europe soon? Obviously, we've touched on a lot of Asia destinations, but for those that are looking to travel either to Europe or North America, what's the situation looking like there?
I'll take this one, Jake. So yeah, thanks, Bella. And look, this one here, we're constantly monitoring the situation. I've become an expert at government websites and travel advisories. So look, the truth is probably not anytime soon, the next maybe 6 to 12 months, that could change. But just with the COVID situation, we think it's most likely that the travel bubbles will be opening up, and the corridors between Australia, New Zealand, the Pacific, the South Pacific, and also Asia. That's why we're focused on these today. I know that there's airlines that are talking about pushing back their flights to these destinations as well. So that's why we're planning, and why, I'm personally thinking about Asia as my next destination for travel. So yeah, it's not on the cards anytime soon.
It makes sense, unfortunately. Whilst we hope we can get there sometime soon, let's make the most of the destinations that are likely to open up first. Now, another question that's come through on the chat function is, will travellers require negative test results to embark on a Gadventures tour?
Yeah, well, that is a good question.
Jake, would you like to answer that one, Jake?
I'm on it. I love answering questions. It's an evolving situation, but at this stage, no, we do not. If that changes, it will be communicated through to our travellers. Our fantastic GCOs are constantly checking these things and will be in touch. Another thing to keep in mind as well is our book with confidence policy. So if you do test positive within 21 days of departure, we do have those flexible rebooking terms available to our travellers.
Yeah. I think it's also just really important to mention there that all of our policies, our book with confidence policy and our travel with confidence policy, where they're not set in stone, like we're constantly monitoring the situation and finessing those policies as we go along. So as the situation requires it, we will make the necessary changes and adjustments to ensure that our travellers are safe on all of our tours, but also that they have confidence and reassurance whilst travelling with G Adventures. I think that just about wraps us up for this evening. Thank you so much to both of you for joining me and for helping out with all of these questions. We really hope that we've been able to sort of give you the overview that you needed to really break through all of that noise and confusion. But of course, if we haven't, the best thing to do is to get in touch with either our GCO team, so that will be the sales number listed on our website, or to go in and visit your local travel agent. It's our hope that everyone's able to get out there and get traveling soon, and we can't wait for you to join us when you can. Thank you so much, everyone, and yeah, look forward to the next state of travel. Hopefully you have some more updates. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.